You won't believe what happened when a single dad janitor, the quiet man who swept floors and fixed leaky taps, was publicly challenged by the most arrogant coach in town. By the end of this story, you'll see why the entire stadium went silent, and why people still talk about that day years later. But before we dive in, if stories like this inspire you, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe, because you won't want to miss what's coming next. It was a cold autumn morning at Riverside High School. The gym echoed with the sound of bouncing basketballs, whistles, and the laughter of young athletes. Coach Bradley was in his element, barking orders, showing off trick shots, and soaking in the admiration from his players. Known for his competitive spirit, he had a tendency to treat those he saw as lesser with little more than a smirk. In the corner, mopping near the bleachers, was Daniel Hayes. A single dad in his early 40s, Daniel had worked as the school's janitor for nearly a decade. He was quiet, polite, and always kept to himself. His life revolved around two things: keeping the school running smoothly and raising his 12-year-old son, Jamie. Jamie was a bright kid with a love for basketball, a love that Daniel encouraged, even if they couldn't afford the latest sneakers or private training sessions. But there was a history between Daniel and Coach Bradley that few knew about. Years ago, before his janitor days, Daniel had been a promising basketball player himself. A star in his youth, he had dreams of playing professionally, dreams that ended abruptly when he walked away from the sport to care for Jamie after his wife passed away. Daniel never talked about it, and most people assumed he'd never been an athlete at all. One Friday afternoon, practice was in full swing. Daniel was fixing a loose bench when he overheard a conversation. Jamie was standing near the court, nervously asking Coach Bradley if he could try out for the school team. The coach barely looked at him. "Kid, this isn't a hobby club," Bradley said sharply. "We need real talent. Go practice in your driveway." Jamie's face fell. Daniel saw it, and something inside him tightened. But he stayed quiet until Bradley noticed Daniel watching. That's when the coach's tone shifted from dismissive to mocking. "Hey, Hayes," he called across the gym, "why don't you show your boy how it's done? Or is mopping floors the only skill you've got left?" The players snickered. Jamie looked down, embarrassed. Daniel straightened up, walked over, and simply said, "What did you have in mind?" Bradley grinned, sensing an opportunity to humiliate him. "Half-court challenge. You make 3 shots before I do, I'll let your kid try out. You miss, you clean the locker room for the next month, no pay." Gasps echoed around the gym. This wasn't just about pride. Bradley had turned it into a spectacle. Daniel hesitated for only a moment before agreeing. The players quickly cleared the court, chanting for their coach. Bradley went first, his form perfect, but his first shot clanged off the rim. Daniel picked up the ball, and in that moment, the years seemed to peel away. He felt the familiar weight, the balance in his hands, the rhythm in his breath. One smooth motion, swish. The gym grew quieter. Bradley made his second shot, the ball rattling in after circling the rim. Daniel's second? Another clean swish. The players began exchanging glances. This wasn't going how they'd expected. It came down to the final round. Bradley, tense now, fired his shot. It bounced off the backboard, no good. Daniel stepped up, the ball resting easily in his hands. Jamie was watching with wide eyes, hope sparking where disappointment had been. Daniel took a breath, arced the ball high, and watched it drop through the net without touching the rim. The gym erupted, not in laughter this time, but in stunned applause. Bradley's smirk had vanished, replaced by a tight jaw. Daniel simply turned to his son and said, "Go get your gear." Over the next weeks, Jamie trained hard. Daniel showed up early, staying after hours to rebound for him, run drills, and quietly pass along everything he'd once known. Bradley, begrudgingly, started to notice Jamie's improvement. The boy who had been dismissed as not real talent became one of the team's sharpest shooters. The turning point came in the final game of the season. Riverside was down by 2 with seconds on the clock. The play broke down, and the ball found its way to Jamie in the corner. Without hesitation, he launched it. The buzzer sounded as the ball swished through the net, a game winner. The crowd roared. Jamie's teammates lifted him up, chanting his name. After the game, Bradley walked over to Daniel. There was no sarcasm this time, only a grudging respect. "You've still got it," he said quietly. Daniel smiled faintly. "It was never about me having it. It was about him finding it." That day, Daniel didn't just win a half-court challenge, he showed his son that no voice, no matter how loud, can define your worth. He reminded everyone watching that humility beats arrogance, and that sometimes, the quietest person in the room carries the strongest story. And years later, when people talk about Riverside's most unforgettable basketball moment, they don't just talk about the championship. They talk about the day a janitor took the court and taught an entire gym a lesson they'd never forget. The crowd didn't stop cheering for a long time after Jamie's winning shot. In the chaos, Daniel stood off to the side, hands in his pockets, quietly watching his son soak in the moment he'd earned. He wasn't the type to rush in and claim credit, that wasn't what this